Okay, welcome everybody to the 2021 Omaha by Design Mayoral Candidate Forum. My name is David Levy. I'm a partner at the Baird Home Law Firm, and I have the honor and pleasure of serving as the chairman of the Board of Directors of Omaha by Design, and I am your moderator tonight. I want to thank everybody for being here, who is here in person, and everybody who's out there watching as well. I want to thank our candidates for being here as well, and I will introduce them in just a moment and have them come out. But before I do that, I want to thank our forum sponsors, our nonprofit partners, and all of our volunteers. Our forum sponsors, presenting sponsors, Dundee Bank and Investors Realty. Platinum sponsors, the Nebraska chapter of the American Institute of Architects, Nebraska Dakotas chapter of the American Society of Landscape Architects, some law firm called Baird Home, Boyd Jones Construction, Lamper Nearson, and HDR. Our gold and silver sponsors are the American Council of Engineering Companies of Nebraska, Alley Pointer Macchiato Architecture, the Nebraska chapter of the American Planning Association, M-Space and Lovegren, the Engineers Club of Omaha, Maggie and Mike McMeekin, Vertus Group, and Green Slate Development. We're really excited for the number and participation and contributions of our nonprofit partners in this. We have 14 in total. ACEC Nebraska, AIA Nebraska, AIA Omaha, APA Nebraska, ASLA Nebraska Dakotas, Bike Walk Nebraska, Crew Omaha, Engineers Club of Omaha, Heartland Bike Share, Keep Omaha Beautiful, Missing Middle Housing Omaha, Mode Shift Omaha, and of course Omaha by Design. And then also really a special thank you to the Omaha Community Playhouse for hosting us. We greatly appreciate them accommodating us, and it's a wonderful space and wonderful to be back up here again doing this. So with that, as I said before, I'm going to try and talk as little as possible. That was my whole allotment. I do want to now bring out and introduce our candidates. And let's start, please, with Mayor Gene Stothert. And waiting in the wings over here, Mr. R.J. Neary. Again, Mayor Stothert and Mr. Neary, thank you very much for being here. We really appreciate it. And I am looking forward to tonight's forum. I know everybody else is as well. We will start with opening statements. There was a hotly contested coin flip backstage earlier. And so as a result of that, the mayor will go first with an opening statement of approximately 3 minutes. One thing we've asked each candidate to touch on in their opening statement, just kind of to start us off with something fun, is if there's a hidden gem, a special spot in their mind in Omaha, to maybe touch on that. So Mayor Stothert, take it away.
Thank you, and thank you for hosting this tonight. I'm delighted to be here. And I'll answer your question about the little secret gem, my favorite spot. And I had to think a lot about that because there's a lot of favorite spots all over Omaha. But I would have to say up on 30th and Reddick Miller Park. It's a public space, it's enjoyed by the public, and it's a great example of a public-private partnership that we have had over the last several years. There's been over $5 million of private money spent up in Miller Park. Right now, if you look at it, and if you've been up there, and I encourage you to do so, it's beautiful. We have the Carrie Orozco baseball field up there. We have a new dog park, one of my favorite areas up there, a new splash ground. We're redoing the pavilion. We're doing an amphitheater there. We've improved their walking trails up in Miller Park. And we have a new splash ground up there, and it's right across the street from Nelson Mandela Park, or Nelson Mandela School. So that is an area that I think is just exceptional, and it continues to grow, and we continue to have the public-private partnerships. Now, why am I running? And as far as my opening statement goes, I love my job. I love going to work every day. It energizes me, it enthuses me, and I am so excited to continue all of the great partnerships we have with businesses and citizens and the philanthropic community, and the way we get things done in Omaha. That's how we get it done. We work together. Every citizen in Omaha has something to contribute to the great transformation that we have had in our city. Omaha Together is the theme or the motto of my campaign, and that's how we move forward, and that's how we will continue to move forward with all the successes and all of the progress that we've had. We started out 8 years ago with a plan to make Omaha safer. We had a plan to manage the city budget and keep taxes low. to move forward with economic development and job growth, and to make city government work better for you. And I believe we have had successes in all of those areas. The city is safer than it was before. We've managed the city budget, managed to lower property tax rates twice. Economic development is booming all over the city, and we've done whatever we can to make city government work better for you. And so I'm looking forward to the debate tonight, to the questions tonight, and I'm looking forward to serving 4 more years as your mayor so we can continue with all of our great successes. Thank you. Thanks for doing this tonight.
Great. Thank you very much, Mayor Stothard. And again, thank you for being here. Mr. Neary, opening statement of about 3 minutes, please. And within that, tell us about one of your favorite hidden gems within Omaha. It's hard to pick one, I know.
It is hard to pick one, David. With all those sponsors, David, this place should, I think there must be a bunch of people up in the rafters. Thank you for having us here, having me here tonight, and I look forward to discussing all these issues that Omaha by Design's put forth, and thank you for hosting this event. My vision for Omaha is to be a more connected city. We've disconnected physically, socially, culturally, as we've grown in distance and with our roads and infrastructure. I dream of a cleaner and more sustainable city. My vision is a city that works and works for all. I believe that the next 20 years may be the most important for many generations to come in Omaha. We need a vibrant transit system. We need a climate action plan. We need to be the leader in these regards. I would like to just tell you some of the projects I've worked on and why I see those as examples of what we could do with our city. The Channel 7 Burlington station had been vacant for 42 years and is now part of the fabric of our community and an anchor in that neighborhood. Omaha Works, Nebraska's largest building, went from 0 jobs and 0 occupancy to 95% occupancy and creating 1,300 jobs. The Creighton St. Joe Hospital project was converted to a mixed-use project, but most important, it connected the east and west sides of that interstate that separated that neighborhood. And if you live at 33rd in California today, you can walk right through that bridge on the pedestrian bridge and go to church or Creighton University and anything on the other side. And that's what I want to do, is reconnect our neighborhoods. And I look forward to what I call high-impact, low-cost projects. Omaha by Design's first consultant looked at 90th and Maple and the wide right-of-ways on North 90th Street and said these have so much potential, but the potential is wasted and the frontage roads and the streets are worn out. If the city does its part, it can spur reinvestment in that area. And as I rode my bike around town to see our city from the ground level, I rode through Maplewood, which is in that area. And yes, David, it's really hard to pick a special spot, but that is an example of some of the great neighborhoods that are hidden gems. It has golf course, it has pools, it has schools, it has a neat boulevard system, and affordable, well-kept housing of varying degrees, of all prices. It's connected to shopping and jobs, but as I said, it still has untapped potential as that area has been bypassed now. I believe with not large investment, the city could spark that commercial area to become vibrant again. I think that could happen all over our city. I saw this in the new North Makerhood north of the baseball field. Thankful for the philanthropy that saw that too, and we assembled 29 acres and 250,000 square feet of buildings and used what we had there. And it went from homeless camps to a vibrant area creating jobs. And this is a model that can be repeated through our city. And I have visions for neighborhoods all over town to thrive. We are great, really great at creating new neighborhoods, but many neighborhoods struggle and are not reaching their potential. I was on the first Habitat for Humanity board in Omaha, and I know the importance of clean, safe, affordable housing. And as mayor, I'll fix what we have and remove obstacles creating new. As I move around town, I see potential in our neighborhoods, but what we need to do is connect them to jobs and opportunity. with good trails and transit. We need all neighborhoods to thrive, to create the opportunity for the #1 wealth builder in America, home equity. I was on the first Omaha by Design Review Board, or when we created Omaha by Design, and it set goals of being a more sustainable city with robust transportation. And my goal is to implement that vision with a more equitable city that empowers all and gives kids from every zip code an equal shot. I served 10 years on the Omaha Planning Board, where I led the board to be a better board, and we actually got out on sites to see how they impacted neighbors. My knowledge, expertise, and skills have prepared me to lead this city forward so that we can reach our potential and become the world-class city that we're destined to be. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. And thank you as well for being here. All right, now we will go to some prepared questions until about 7:45. We do have some questions that came in online earlier today and in the days leading up to this. I have a few of those as well. And we also, I believe, will have cards circulating in the audience. So if audience members have questions, please write those down and we'll get those up here. I remember 4 years ago, I got a stack about an inch thick, and I looked over at the mayor, and she said, no, we're not going to be here till 10 o'clock. So no promise that we'll get to your question, but we do have that opportunity as well. So try, if you would, candidates, please, to keep your answers to these questions to around 2 minutes. Mayor, based on that tough coin flip, you will go first here on the first question. And here is the first question. And unless one of you asks, I will only read it one time just to keep us moving and again, minimize my talking and have as much time for the two of you. So the first question is, a recent study of the greater Omaha Metro revealed a significant need for affordable housing with a current pace of construction insufficient to meet the demand. As mayor, how would you encourage innovative design solutions or other opportunities to accelerate the production of affordable housing?
Sure, thank you. You know, affordable housing, the definition means different things to different people. It depends a lot on your family, your income, where you work, your lifestyle, your number of kids that you have. So it could be anything from low-income housing to subsidized to affordable to workforce. But general economics tell you that the more you have as far as your housing stock, from the low end to the top end, the lower the cost of housing will be. The real question, though, is what is government's role? What is government's role as far as affordable housing? And I do not feel like government's role is to be building houses, using taxpayer dollars to build houses. Government's role is to identify and remove any obstructions or barriers so that builders can construct more affordable housing. And is it incentivizing or is it subsidizing is what government's role could be? And the answer is it's a mixture of both. It has to be a balance of both. As far as incentives, for example, giving incentives for higher density, like we did with our development of our new TOD along the new bus route, just making sure that we remove any other barriers as far as our development and as far as what our building codes are. As far as subsidies go, TIF. You know, TIF is a great subsidy that we have and we offer, and just recently we have changed that we offer micro TIF. Usually TIF is awarded to developments 500,000 or more, and now we have the ability of 250,000 to 500,000. The city of Omaha was the first to adopt the enabling legislation as far as extremely blighted areas. All of those things work together as far as being able to offer incentives and subsidies so that developers can develop more affordable housing. But it's not just building new housing, it's also preserving the stock that we have now. And with our CDBG funds that we get, we have home funds in there, and we use those to help people as far as anything from lead abatement to new roofs. Just today, we announced 2 areas that we are going to be building more affordable houses. One is up at Wintergreen, which is about 51st and Sorensen, and it's property that the city acquired about 14 years ago. We've been working on ways that we could develop that property and just has come into an agreement with Habitat for Humanity. They're going to build 88 single-family homes in that area. And also, we signed an MOU last week to develop the Civic Auditorium site. And that's a 4-block square acre shovel-ready city-owned property in downtown, and we have signed an agreement with Civic Corner, and that is a group that White Lotus is the primary developer in that. That will be a mixed-use development with right under 400 apartments, and approximately a fourth of those, will be affordable housing. So these are just some of the things that are going on now. If you look at 75 North, mixed-use income there. We're building Kennedy Square to complement it, Nobility Point. There's a lot of areas that we've already been working on as far as affordable housing, and we will continue to do so. But it's important to understand what government's role is.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Neary.
Thank you. I don't believe children in Omaha, Nebraska should be going to bed in substandard housing. And it has terrible consequences in education and jobs and in our crime. You know, the mayor's job in Omaha, it doesn't run the public schools. But when kids live in substandard housing, they move from house to house to house, and that makes the absentee rates go up and the graduation rates go down. And we all know what the consequences of that are. My plan for increasing affordable housing is to remove obstacles so that developers come and do that. And we need entitled sites and shovel-ready sites. And we need to renovate part of the houses we're demolishing today. Because once you demolish those, that puts a scar in the neighborhood and you never get that site back and you never get that site going again. So we need to eliminate substandard housing and rebuild what we have. We need to look at our zoning laws. I grew up a mile east of here in Dundee, and we had duplexes next door, behind us, a block away, and we need to mix our housing better. Single-family zoning has been an exclusionary zoning that's been with us too long, and we need to mix our housing. And when I lived a mile south of where I grew up, we had a carriage house above our garage, and we had students from Argentina, we had people from Australia, we had people from Costa Rica, and it really enriched our lives and enriched the neighborhood's lives. And we need those accessory dwelling units, and we need to get these things done, and because it creates much more opportunity. And we need them done where there's transit and there's child empowerment areas where kids can get a good education and their parents can get to jobs and get to the doctor. And that's what I'll do as mayor. And we can do more with our housing authority and our public-private partnerships. This is a problem, and only 4% of philanthropy in Omaha is spent on housing. I think there's an appetite to fix this problem with more public-private partnerships, and we'll get it done. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Second question, and again, candidates, if you could keep your answers to around 2 minutes, we would appreciate it. Mr. Neary, this question is to you first, and then Mayor to you. But Mr. Neary first, a majority of today's young college graduates are choosing where to live first and where to work second, with civic amenities and quality of life factors often outweighing economic considerations like taxes. In this new remote work era, what can the city do to address attraction and retention of talent so as to enhance the vibrancy and competitiveness of its broader workforce?
This is an issue I've been working on and studying for a long time, and I don't think we know what the reset's going to look like. I watched a video the other day that showed a real flexible workforce, and all the corporations in Omaha are studying how we are going to reset. And I don't think anybody knows for sure, but we need to work with the private sector to figure that out. We need to connect people to jobs, and we need to empower our young people to come here and stay here. We need to appoint them to boards and get them involved in making the decision about the future of our city. But young people want a vibrant transit system. They want housing options. They want jobs that they're attracted to. And we have plenty of demand for jobs, but we need housing and transit for people to get here that they can afford. And we need more creative districts. As I said before, I think we can create more and innovate more with more companies in districts like the New North, Makerhood, Benson, and Blackstone. but we've got to be purposeful about doing that. But we can do it in other areas that don't seem as attractive right now, but that will empower our young people and bring people moving to Omaha and keep our young people in Omaha. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Neary. Mayor, same question to you.
Yeah, you bet. You know, a lot of people call this brain drain, and I like to look at it positively and call it brain gain. And the question is, how do we gain as a community by keeping those young professionals here? And how do they gain by staying here in an area that they grew up, have family here, and perhaps went to school here? And my answer would be, you got to listen to what the young folks and the young professionals are saying. And what they are telling me is they want an exciting urban core. They want multiple options for transportation. They want affordable housing. They want choices of good jobs that they feel are meaningful. They want choices for entertainment and recreation. And that is exactly what we have been working on. And, you know, if you look at what we're doing with our urban core, we have now called an urban core group that is looking at a defined area. It's coming to the north and Leavenworth to the south, 10th Street to the east, and all the way to Saddle Creek to the west. Looking at that urban core, a group of professionals, developers, architects, engineers, at what we need to be doing in that defined area as far as retail, as far as entertainment, as far as roads, transportation, housing. And they are going to come up with their recommendations very soon, a master plan. They're going to present it to me and then to the city council. We already have a downtown master plan, but this will only complement it. And so this is what these are things that we're already doing and already working together on. Look at the Blackstone area, for example, the transformation of that area. And it's really helped just converting the Farnham one-way street to two-way in there. So recently, the Chamber has done a study, and what they found out with this study is that number of young professionals that have been leaving Omaha in the past, the data they use, has decreased by 50%. And so that brain drain that people talk about these young professionals that are leaving, the data is not there to support it anymore. In fact, it's quite the opposite. More are staying here because they like what they see and they like the development. When you talk about the riverfront development downtown, that will be amazing when that's done. And that's 90 acres of city-owned property. And what we know is going to happen is just like what happened in the late 60s and early 70s when the Jean Leahy Mall was first built. It sparks development and it sparks redevelopment. Look at all of the residential downtown. It's kind of the opposite of what it used to be. It used to be have the businesses down there and then people will come and live. It's kind of the opposite now. You build the residential and people are down there to live and then the businesses will come. And so that's what we are working on. That's what we've had many successes on. And it's because we listen to what people are saying and the results are there, that there are less and less that are leaving Omaha, more and more coming back.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. Our third question, and Mayor, this will be to you first and then to Mr. Neary. In 2020, voters passed a $200 million bond issue to repair and rehabilitate city streets, demonstrating Omahans' desire to invest in a better transportation system. To set the stage for the next generation of our city's growth, what role would you have the city play in connecting the city through a truly multimodal transportation network?
Absolutely. I love this question because the bond issue was an initiative of mine. You know, we looked at our streets after I became mayor. They had been underfunded for a good 50 years. We knew that. We have about 5,000 lane miles of road within the city of Omaha. Worked with the finance director, public works director for several years. The primary source of revenue we had for fixing our roads was coming from the state gas tax and from the wheel tax, but it wasn't enough. And so years ago, several years ago, I got a team of worldwide experts together, and my question to them was, why do our roads look the way they do? What do we need to do to fix them? How much is it going to cost? How are we going to pay for it? And what we came back and decided on the best thing to do would be this bond issue. What we found out is what we were spending was about $41 million a year, and we needed to be spending about $75 million a year. So we knew we needed more revenue. That bond issue, we took it out on the road. And in the middle of a pandemic, which is unprecedented. In fact, we cannot find a public works bond issue that passed in any part of the country during the pandemic of that magnitude as we did here in Omaha. What we have with that now, and again, we wanted to do it right, not in a hurry, we wanted to do it right. And now we have an additional $40 million a year we can spend on our roads. The thing that I found was so important and fundamental to everything else, to creating more multimodal transportation, looking at more public transportation, looking at more bike lanes, looking at every way people commute, fundamental to everything else is fixing the roads first. You do not want to put a light rail in or bike lanes on a road that is full of potholes. So now we address the fundamental issue. We have a solution. We are now able to resurface twice as many roads as we had in the past. 250 lane miles a year now as opposed to 125 in the past. Now that we have that solution and the bond issue is passed, we can look at other forms of transportation, which we have been doing all along. The BRT, for example, the bus rapid transit, we work with Metro Transit on that issue. That's a project of Metro Transit, but we work with the Department of Transportation to get a grant for it, $15 million to help build it. You got to look at where it is now is the initial spine from 10th Street east all the way to the West Roads west. But what we will do in the future is have multiple lines tie in from the north, south, and west. And of course, we have the TOD zoning now along that corridor, and that will occur wherever we have lines running into the bus rapid transit. That's just one area we're looking at. But as far as bikes, as far as connectivity, as far as walkability, as far as our trails, these are things that we have been working on and putting into our plan for years now. And now that we have that fundamental problem solved of the way the roads look and the surface of the roads, now we can move forward with other forms of transportation.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Neary, same question to you, please.
Thank you, David. I was at 156th and Blondo last night, and I counted 7 lanes of concrete. One of them is not even being used. And I just asked myself, why do we need all 7 lanes here? Is that just for 1 hour of peak time every day? So I guess I'm a little different. I drive around and ask these questions, want to see if we can do it better. And I reflected back in 2014, I was in New York, and I got on one of those the rental bikes. I biked all over that city in protected bike lanes. And I thought, why can't Omaha do this? And we still haven't done it. So my vision is that we have a multimodal transportation system. And I'm not sure what all new transportation is going to be, but I think we need people connected to jobs, connected to the doctors, connected to education. And I'd like to see Metro North and Metropolitan Community College North and Metropolitan Community College South connected by a more vibrant system. I was riding the bus one day and I saw an elderly woman getting on the bus with her groceries. I thought, how is she going to get home from the bus? And I saw a guy roll in the wheelchair with his groceries on his lap. And I thought, I hope the sidewalks are okay for this guy to get to his house. And we need more connected and safe routes to school for kids. And I'm very committed to that. And one of the first things I'm going to do in my first 100 days is ride bikes with kids to any kids at school wants to start a bike group going to. And I've ridden scooters in many cities, and we need to advance these things. I was in Elmwood Park the other day. There was a guy riding an electronic unicycle. So I don't think we know exactly what future of transportation is going to come, but we need to move the ball ahead and create a connection with our east and west and north and south and feeding into a main program. And the other thing I've discovered as I've gone through the city, my neighborhood doesn't have sidewalks. And man, there are a lot of them in Omaha. And we need to figure out where it's safer for people to walk and people to drive. Because in my neighborhood, people don't know which side of the street to walk on and which side to drive on. And we need to advance this and move it forward. I heard they were going to use common areas in our neighborhood years ago, but that hasn't happened. And it costs $8,000 to $10,000 to drive a car in Omaha now. So this is an environmental and an equity issue and an economic development issue. This is how we're going to attract people and have employees. Thank you, David.
Thank you. And I can promise the guy on the electronic unicycle was not me. That would not end well. All right, next question.
Goes 40 miles an hour, he says.
Wow, that's scary. Just being honest. Next question, and we'll go to Mr. Neary first, and then same question to you, Mayor, but first to Mr. Neary. Tax increment financing, TIF, remains a primary financial tool for redevelopment in Omaha. Do you believe that TIF is successful in its current form? What is it doing well? And what, if anything, would you like to see changed about the way the city of Omaha uses tax increment financing?
I think I was the first tax increment finance user in Omaha when we did the New Idea building in Jobbers Canyon. It's a good tool. It's been used successfully. Its intention was to revitalize older neighborhoods. And its intention was that it's harder and more expensive to do urban infill, and that's in blighted areas, and that was the intention for that tool. That's why you can't use it out west. But we do have tools out west. We do have tax-free bonds for SIDs, and in an indirect way, we are subsidizing suburban development by tax-free bonds. So if we're going to review tools, I think we ought to review them all. I think TIF, sometimes the return on investment to the taxpayer is not transparent, and that's why people think that we ought to review it and that it ought to do more for the community. I'm fine with that, but we ought to study it, but we ought to study all tools. I'm for more tools, not less, because I think we can create more economic opportunity that way. So when I'm mayor, we'll look at it and we'll review it, but I'll also be transparent about the social impact and the financial impact and the return to the taxpayer. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mayor, same question to you.
Yes, we use TIF very carefully, very judiciously. Of course, you have to follow state law, state redevelopment laws. As far as our use of TIF, it has to satisfy state law. The but for has to be there, that development would not happen but for the TIF. We have used it very successfully all over Omaha. In fact, right now we have about, I would say about 250 TIF projects that are still in repayment, and the value of those projects will add valuation to the city of over $2 billion. A good example I will give you of how TIF works so well is Crossroads. Right now, the value of Crossroads before we started the redevelopment, or the developer did, it was about $14 million. The taxes on that area was about $300,000 approximately a year. When that development will be finished, the value will be about $415 million, and the taxes that will be owed once the TIF note is paid off will be $9,300,000. That's an increase of $9 million a year in property tax revenue that they don't have now. And I can tell you, after working on Crossroads when I first was a city council member 12 years ago, we've been working on it a long time, and that development would not happen but for the TIF. As I said, we use it very judiciously. We have a TIF committee that even some of our city attorneys sit on. We look at all TIF applications and make sure they satisfy our laws and state redevelopment laws before we would recommend that to go to the city council for their approval. There are some TIF applications that we don't approve, but most of them that we do, but we look at them very, very carefully. Another thing we did recently, and I mentioned this before, but I want to reemphasize, is usually TIF is awarded to projects of $500,000 or more. Now we have amended that, and we have what we call a micro TIF. That's just our word for it. And we can award those for projects of $250,000 to $500,000. So a much less value on the development, but now we can use TIF and make that as an option for a tool for development.
Great, thank you very much. Our next question will be to you, Mayor, first, and then to you, Mr. Neary. But first, Mayor Stothert, OPPD is well underway with its decarbonization initiative with the goal of achieving net zero carbon production. What role can the City of Omaha play in complementing these efforts, by extending decarbonization to other segments of the community, such as buildings, transportation, urban design, and land use?
Sure. You know, there's many things that we've been working on for years now as far as a climate plan and far as addressing the issues we have as far as that we know we have. The science backs it up. I will say this is one thing that I have got together 4 years ago was a smart city committee. It consists of representatives from the business community, from the philanthropic community, from Metro Transit, the chamber is on there, Omaha by Design is on that. And we were concentrating on the past 4 years on transportation and technology. Now we have broadened our focus to address climate, and I can't think of any group that would be better to help us develop a climate action plan and a sustainability action plan. So that's what we are really working on with that smart city group. We've already done a lot of things within the city of Omaha in the last 8 years, though, to develop a climate action plan and to develop initiatives that will help reduce the net carbon, or get us to net carbon zero. When you mention that OPPD has their goal is by 2050 to be net carbon zero. What we did is I talked to the president of OPPD and I talked to the president of MUD. Rather than us joining them, I asked them to join us. I asked them to sit at the table with our Smart City Committee, and they are going to do that. So the president of OPPD and MUD will sit with Smart City with us and help develop that action plan to reach that net carbon zero by 2050. But just a few of the things we've done to reduce our diesel emissions and to reduce green gas is our new trash contract. One of the things we ask in the contract that went out, the RFP that went out, is that they replace our entire fleet of garbage trucks with trucks that are fueled by compressed natural gas. Another thing with our BRT, the new buses are fueled by compressed natural gas. The landfill, Douglas County landfill, has a methane recapturing system out there. And with that, we recapture the methane that is produced from the organics that are in our landfill. We have an OPPD power plant out there. And with the amount that we can convert right now, we can power around approximately 4,000 homes. Now that is a green solution. With our CSO, or our combined sewer overflow, a big sewer project that we have, over $2 billion plan, we have worked with consultants to reduce the cost of that by about 25% by doing green solutions, retention basins, things that will eliminate the use of digging holes and tunnels in the ground, but doing green solutions. So there's a lot of initiatives that we already have underway, but I think that Smart City Group that we have and the initiatives that we have with that, working with OPPD and MUD, sitting on that committee with us, that's how we will develop an even better plan for the future for climate and sustainability.
Great, thank you.
You bet.
Mr. Neary, same question, please.
I'm really proud of OPPD and the way they've changed their plans and moved ahead in the last 3 to 5 years and really made great strides in saving our planet. And why wouldn't we want to hand off our city to the next generation in a cleaner, more economical way to live? And we're not doing that right now. And when I'm mayor, I'm going to have a sustainability officer in my cabinet, and we're going to measure it and report it to the public. That's what we're going to do, is report it and measure ourselves, because when you measure yourself, things get done. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, we're getting close to 7:45. I'm going to do one more prepared question. If you have questions out there in the audience, now is the time to get them in. Again, no promise that we will get to them, but we will try, and now is the time. So for our last prepared question, Mr. Neary, you will begin. This will be first to you and then to you, Mayor. Mm-hmm. The $350 million investment in and around the riverfront is underway and will be completed in the next few years. Following this major investment, what needs to be done to build on this momentum and ensure that our urban core is connected and thriving as a hub for all of Omaha? In other words, what's next?
Our Our urban core is the most important part of our city. But it's not connected, and it's disconnected in many ways. We've made mistakes over the years, and we're paying for it. The Department of Roads is now spending $40 million on our bridge that disconnects North Downtown and South Downtown. The federal government is out looking for projects like this, and other cities have removed these roadways that separate their neighborhoods. Seattle's done it, Oklahoma City's done it, San Francisco's done it. We need to be purposeful and intentional about how we do this. And the State Department of Roads has plans to spend $850 million just on our interstate system in our city limits over the next 10 years. I don't think we need to add lane miles. We need to use technology and move people, not autos. And that's what I'll do as mayor, and we'll reconnect our parts of our city. Right now, we don't have enough opportunities for corporations. We've 5 corporations, many corporations like MUD and Schooler and Pacific Life have left downtown because we haven't connected them with parking and transit and things like that. And that's what I'll do as mayor, and we'll make a more vibrant urban core and opportunities, and we'll compete with the suburbs with our urban core. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Same question to you.
Thanks. You know, that redevelopment of our riverfront downtown, the $350 million development, city puts in $50 million dollars, and we have $350 million of private funds. It's just unprecedented. It will transform downtown. When you talk about development downtown, it has to be a combination of downtown redevelopment or infill and suburban growth. All areas of Omaha are important, and that's why we are developing all of Omaha, working with our developers. As far as the downtown goes, and I mentioned it before though, in the late 60s, the mayor at that time saw people leaving the downtown area and moving west. And a lot of that had to do with this shopping center that was built about 5 miles west called Crossroads. People were leaving, businesses were leaving. And out of the study that they did came the Jean Leahy Mall. When the Jean Leahy Mall was built, it revitalized downtown. There was over 20 buildings that were redeveloped, new buildings sprouted up all over the area, and downtown was revitalized. And they wanted to connect downtown with our most important geographic feature, and that's the Missouri River. They called it Back to the River at that time. That's exactly what we are doing again. And when that 90 acres of city-owned property is finished, and now we have an addition of over $100 million STEM Science Museum that's going to be on Lewis and Clark Landing, I know that that will redevelop downtown, and we're already seeing it. We're already seeing more residential down there. A good example that I toured the other day is the Landmark building, which is now a 120-plus room hotel called the Farnham. It's going to redevelop in that area again. But what our role is in the city, too, is to study what we want in that area of redevelopment. That's why we have the Urban Core Committee, to look at our urban core. What do we need as far as land use, as far as retail, as far as open spaces, as far as entertainment, as far as recreation, as far as our infrastructure. Look at those one-way roads downtown. Several years ago, we had the Urban Land Institute come in and study our downtown. And one of the recommendations were, get rid of those one-way streets downtown. And so these are all things we have to look at. Parking downtown, that's why public transportation is so important downtown. Because when we have this revitalization and more businesses and more residential down there, you know, the last thing we want to do is be building any surface parking lots for people to park. So you've got to look at the transportation as well as that goes too. So I think as we continue to develop Omaha, and I will say that investment continues to be unbelievable even through the pandemic, and that's all over Omaha. And that's what we want to see. I kind of judge the value and the investment in the city by the value of building permits that our planning department issues. And even during the pandemic in 2020, we issued over $1 billion worth of building permits. Since I've been mayor, over $7 billion in building permits. That's all over Omaha. That's what I want to see continue.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. All right. I will go now to, and this question will be first to you, Mayor, and then to you, Mr. Neary. This is a question that was submitted online earlier today, and it looks like Scott's bringing me some from our live audience as well. But here's one, again to you, Mayor Stothert. First, thank you, Scott. From submitted online earlier today. What responsibilities does the private developer have to the public realm of our city?
I'm not sure I understand what they're saying here. What does the private developer have to the public?
So I think what they're getting at is when a private developer develops a private site, what responsibility does that private developer or that private development have then to contribute to the public realm of the city, the streets, the sidewalks, the parks, more public amenities like that?
Well, you know, I mean, for every development, the city of Omaha works with that developer. We work on developing a good plan, a good site plan. We work with them to make sure that the traffic flow, we look at the infrastructure, we look at the roads, and we work with them. I mean, a great example is Exarban Village, when Exarban Village was built. Right now, Crossroads, the city of Omaha is putting in or assisting, I would say, that those developers in a way that we can as far as public infrastructure. Another great example is working with the Med Center now, with this huge boom of development that Nebraska Medicine has going on now. And hopefully we will hear soon if we were awarded and will receive the new hospital that we've been talking about. But what we need to do as a city is work with these developers to make sure that we could do our part as far as public infrastructure and as far as making sure that these developments move forward. What the other thing is that I think is important as far as the public goes is it has to fit the neighborhoods also. That's really, really important. And when we build a new development, we have to make sure that we look at all aspects of it, whether it's housing, whether it's the infrastructure, whether it's traffic. That's very important too. And so I think what a developer owes the neighbors that live in that area is a development that fits the area, development that fits the neighborhood, that we make sure it's safe, we make sure the traffic is controlled, we make sure that the amenities are there that people expect and that connectivity is there too. You know, we have a city master plan. And we want to make sure that when the developers develop, that we still abide by what the master plan has. And that master plan was very, very carefully created, and we have amended it as time goes on. But I think it's important that we follow that master plan, and it was developed so that it fits the neighborhood, it fits the growth of the city, and it complements everything that we are doing to make Omaha, just the neighborhood's a better place.
Thank you.
You bet.
Mr. Neary, same question.
I think developers have some responsibility. They earn their living from this city, and they have some responsibility to make it a better city. I was always, as I mentioned before, I was proud of the bridge that crossed, and that was shared between Creighton and the developer of those apartments. But it's a great amenity for the whole neighborhood. And as mayor, I'll tell you what the return on investment is, and not only socially, but fiscally. So at the Crossroads, we've granted the Crossroads, I think, $12.5 million plus the TIF. But I don't know what that return is to it's a great development. It should be great. But I think the taxpayer who's paying these taxes in Omaha deserves to know, what is our return? What are we getting for that? And it goes to other projects. And we need to think long-term on these projects. We have a master plan, yes. But ConAgra was only there 30 years, then we started tearing those buildings down. Now we're putting the streets back in, and we're re-TIFing the district, and we're re-TIFing the landmark. We need to think in longer terms. We need to make sure that you, the taxpayer, has a return on your investment that we're putting out. And as mayor, I'll make sure you have that.
All right, thank you very much. I will say we have a smaller stack of cards with audience questions this time, so we'll only be here till about 9:30. But Scott's bringing a couple more, so I'll bring them up. Thank you, Scott. So, Mr. Neary, this one will be to you first. This is where my job gets hard. If I mess up the order here, call me on it, please, but I think I can do it. Mr. Neary, how can we take advantage of the awareness of racial inequities in Omaha to move infrastructure projects forward that will truly affect change?
we have, Omaha's a great city, no doubt about it. But we've struggled with inequities and segregation. And we have stolen people's home equity by redlining, segregation, and unfair practices. We need to reconnect the areas that have become disconnected. Other cities have done it. Dallas is burying several interstates right now. People are building bridges. We spent an incredible amount of money building these interstates through good neighborhoods. And as far as the downtown goes, we planned that interstate and all those ramps to be for like 50,000 employees when we have 20,000 or less now. And we need to think about where we're going with this, and we need to create tools and neighborhood connections to get this problem of inequity solved. And I have plans for neighborhood revitalization, and I know how to do it, and I've been doing it for 40 years, and that's what we'll do when I'm mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Stothert, same question, please.
You know, I just want to comment, though, I've heard this before, but ConAgra did not leave downtown. ConAgra's headquarters moved to Chicago. We still have over 1,300 ConAgra employees in the city of Omaha. But let's go to the question here. You know, I don't feel like that we show any difference to East Omaha as we do to West Omaha. When I became mayor, I said I am mayor for the entire city, and I took that very seriously. Redlining went out in 1968 with the Fair Housing Act. We don't do redlining anymore, but we invest in the areas of cities that need it the most. Look at Northeast Omaha right now. Look at District 2. Look at the investment that has been going on there. Look at North 30th Street. It has been totally transformed with 75 North. Huge project that we received a Choice Neighborhood grant of over $35 million from HUD to develop that. Kennedy Square, now that we are building, to complement 75 North. Look at 24th Street and Lake. We've created the first BID, so the businesses and the business owners in that area can have a voice and can say what they want to see happen in that area. Look at the infrastructure in Northeast Omaha, for example. Do you know last year alone, we funded over $6.5 million worth of road projects in Northeast Omaha in District 2, and we resurfaced over 37 lane miles of road in that area. So we pay attention and we put emphasis on the areas of Omaha that need it the most. When we passed our bond issue, I'm going to give you an example. We have a lot of unimproved roads in Northeast Omaha. Those are roads that have deteriorated beyond repair or had never been resurfaced in the first place. We had less than $1 million a year in the capital improvement plan for those unimproved roads. Now, when the bond issue passed, we put $6 million additional dollars every year for unimproved roads, and we're not even going to require the residents along that way to form districts. We're just going to go out there and do it because those are the areas that need it the most. So that's what we need to continue doing. Working with the people that that live and work in those areas, let them have a voice and put priorities on the areas that need it the most.
Great, thank you very much. So I'm going to try and squeeze in one more question, and this is an audience question, and then we will give you each time for a closing statement. And Mayor, this question will be to you first, and then as came out of that now famous coin flip, you'll go first with your closing statement as well. And then hopefully we'll wrap up right about on time. I'm taking a chance here with this last question, so if you both could be a little bit brief, not the question, just the timing,
all right.
A little bit brief in your answers. Mayor first, and then Mr. Neary, describe what a climate action plan would entail for our city, and when would this be complete, and how would you operationalize it?
Mm-hmm. Well, again, I think it makes it, we have to create a plan, a strategic plan. And, you know, I would agree that what OPPD and MUD have talked about, that we would strive to be net carbon zero by 2050, would be a great goal to have. I would say that what we need to do is look at any way we can to reduce the emissions, green gas emissions. We have done that already in many of the ways that I talked about earlier, as far as what we've done with the CSO, as far as what we've done with the new trash contract in our fleet of trucks, as far as what's going on at the landfill. But we need to continue and develop more. We need to look at our sources of energy, for example. We have a traffic signal master plan now that we are converting all of our signals to a plan that they basically talk to each other. And so I'm going to give you an example of that. So if you go through that, if you're going from west to east in the morning and you go through 90th and Dodge, one person hits that pedestrian crosswalk, it messes it up for the whole morning. With our new signal master plan, if 150 cars go through 90th and Dodge, there's going to be 150 go through the next light and the next light and the next light. That stops at stop and go. It limits the stop and go, and even that will eliminate the carbon and the green gas, so and carbon emissions, I mean. So these are things that are already underway. This is what we need to do, and to look at all forms that we can do to help reduce emissions and to be net carbon zero by 2050. That's a good goal, and we will work with our Smart City group to develop that strategic plan. The important thing, though, is you've got to get community input. These decisions should not be with the mayor alone. I should not be making, any mayor should not be making these decisions in a vacuum. That's why I think it's so important to work with the committee and get input from our community, from all aspects of our community, of what they want, not just what I want.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Neary.
I've laid out a climate action plan on my website. It involves having a sustainability officer so that we measure how our progress is going, that we look at every department, we look at every budget, we look at every policy, and we make sure we're doing the best we can. And I'm really excited about doing that because I think when you start looking at these things, you're going to find a lot of, well, we've always done it that way. And we're going to have, I know we have a lot of room for low-hanging fruit and changing many of the vehicles we run to electric vehicles, and I think we can advance this very fast, like OPPD did, and we'll save dollars doing it. And it's not something that's been done yet, and it's time we get this done. Climate action is real, and we don't have much time left, and when I'm mayor, we'll get it done.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you both very much.
You're welcome.
For taking those questions and those great responses. A couple of minutes for closing statements. Mayor, you are first.
Because I lost the coin cost, right?
I don't remember.
No, I'm happy to go first. You know, elections are about the future. And I am so excited to keep on working with every citizen in Omaha, with the businesses, with the philanthropic community, to keep Omaha moving forward. You know, the pandemic really hit us, but it didn't knock us out. And we need to continue working, navigating through the pandemic to make sure that we continue recovery, continue to help our citizens that were severely affected by the pandemic and our small businesses. There's so much that we still need to do. And what's so important is that I will take the responsibility for that. We don't need a COVID czar. I will take that responsibility to keep on working with the citizens to move us forward. I will continue to work on the pandemic. My number one authority and my number one responsibility, though, is public safety. I will continue to keep Omaha safe. Omaha is safer than it was 8 years ago. We've added 100 more police officers, a new police precinct. Number of shootings is at an all-time low, and our crime rate has dropped already this year. In 2021, our crime rate is down 14%. I will continue to manage the city budget very carefully. I never forget whose money I'm spending. I've reduced the property tax rate twice. I have had a surplus every year at the end of the budget, and I work to develop the budget with every city department, and I will take that responsibility to manage the budget every single month, which I have done since I have been mayor. I will continue to focus on job growth and economic development. The development and investment in Omaha now is unprecedented, and I believe there is so much investment going on from the Missouri River all the way out to the Elkhorn River because they trust the administration and they trust the leadership in Omaha right now. And I will continue to make city government work better for all citizens of Omaha. Along with that, the road projects are extremely important. We have a $200 million bond issue now, and we are resurfacing and rehabilitating twice as many roads every year as we have before. Fundamental to everything else, we will continue working on that, and that is very important. Sustainability, we talked about that. We want Omaha to be a cleaner city. And lastly, and very importantly, we need to make Omaha a more welcoming, friendly city for everyone, no matter what party you are in, no matter what gender you are, no matter what color your skin. Omaha needs to be a more welcoming city for all who call Omaha their home. Omaha, like I said, was knocked down by the pandemic, but not knocked out. Omaha is back. Omaha can be better than ever, and I will make sure it gets done. And I would appreciate your vote on May 11th. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Neary, go ahead.
Thank you, David, and thank you for all the sponsors and Omaha by Design for having us here tonight. I think we need to change paths. For 8 years, we've been on the same path, and I have a new path forward. We need to reset from this pandemic. We need a downtown that competes with the suburbs. We need housing options, and we need affordable housing, and we need to eliminate our substandard housing. We need climate action plan, and we need a multimodal transportation plan, and we need to move these things ahead. We need to attract the young people, like my daughters down here and my niece, and keep them in Omaha. And we need jobs that are vibrant, in vibrant neighborhoods that work for everybody. And we need an Omaha that works for every kid in every zip code. I'm running for the next generation, and I believe Omaha can be a world-class city, and it's not reaching its potential because we're not facing some of our problems. I want a more connected city, a cleaner city, and a more sustainable city, and I'd appreciate your vote on May 11th. Thank you.
Great. So, as both candidates mentioned, Election Day is in 1 week, and in fact, 1 week from right now, the polls will have closed.
Oh, boy.
So that's kind of exciting for everybody, probably. Again, thank you all for being here. Thanks for everybody out there for watching. Thanks to our sponsors. Thanks to the Playhouse. And most importantly, please join me in thanking both of our candidates for being here. Yeah, thank you very much.